We worship you alone. You are worthy to be praised. You are Alpha and Omega. We worship you alone. You are worthy to be praised. We give you all the glory. We worship you alone. You are worthy to be praised. We give you all the glory. We worship you, our Lord. You are worthy to be praised.
Father God, we thank you and bless you for this time. We're keenly aware during this time, during this season, that the transitioning happening. Children are heading back to school, even as students are heading back to their respective campuses. Pray, God, now that even as folks are trying to make it to the end of the month, that their decision would be to honor you. Help us, Father, as we focus in, even through our singing and through our reading of Scripture and prayer, that all would have been done to focus in on you. That nothing would have been done out of perfunctory or out of that sense of checking the box.
Yes.
But that, God, all of it has been to focus us in, that we might hear you more clearly, that we might be able to hear your answers for our questions, to hear your calm for our confusion, to hear, God, you giving us ultimate vision for what you would have us to do, and God, insight for what you would have us to know.
Yes.
God, we pray right now, even that as we have sung your word and now prepare to preach your word, that you have been pleased, and even more that the presence of your Holy Spirit would be with us to lead us and to guide us and to teach us those things which we would know. So therefore, open our hearts and our minds, give us itching ears that we might hear from you. Allow our minds to be steady, that we would be able to discern the things which you are telling us, those things which to get rid of and to bring in, to root out, and God, even to plant. And God, grant us assurance of knowing that even as you are speaking, you are getting us prepared for some things, even as you are leading us through others. Now, God, we pray that you would speak to and speak through this, the man of God, for the purpose of the teaching of the word of God, so that in doing so, you might help us and strengthen us and prepare us for the journey ahead. If need be, remove him, that your glory might be fulfilled. For ultimately, we seek, God, a word that would help us to transition into greater heights of responsibility and greater places of your anointing. So God, again, we thank you for this time, and we thank you for this purpose, and we pray these things in Jesus' name and call them done. Amen. 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 God bless you, even as we work together through the word of God. Thank you, Stephen. As always, you sound wonderful. You're sounding better than all the brand. The brand just brings something out. It does. Amen. Thank you so much, as you are faithful to us. Thank you. Yes, all right. Amen. Let's go ahead and do it as we have done it. We've been talking through for the last several weeks, actually to be precise, about 7 weeks. For 7 weeks we have been working through understanding anger. Understanding anger, the conscious choice of what it means out of Ephesians 4 and that 26th verse, to be angry but to sin not. We have been focused in specifically on how we transition through these modes of anger. We learned, first of all, that anger is an emotion that either stems out of a deep sense of wounding, that one has been hurt, and so instead of admitting that I'm hurt, one gets angry. They let the rage build because one does not want to give another person control by saying, I'm so hurt that you have wounded me. And so anger comes out of this response of being wounded, out of being insulted, out of being done wrong. And then there is the anger that comes by not being in control. I can't make you do what I want you to do, and so therefore I become angry at you because I can't control you. And then the piece of that is accompanied is, not only do I become angry at you because I cannot control you, I become angry because I cannot control the things around me. And so therefore, because I feel out of control, because I feel out of kilter, because I don't feel like I have a firm handle on my life or the things that are going on around me, I become angry, and my anger becomes like a blast of a grenade or a shotgun blast. It just goes everywhere because I'm so filled with this sense of nervousness, this sense of being out of control, this sense of being discombobulated, that my anger, out of this sense of anxiety, it goes everywhere. We learned then that there's a differentiation between the anger that comes out of a lack of control and a lack of hurt, and to this understanding that God even has anger, and that anger is a legitimate exercise. It tells us that something is wrong in our lives, and the minute we feel anger rise up, we know that something is wrong. What we mostly see in God's anger is this sense that there is ingratitude that goes on, that people have put other things ahead of what has been put in front of God, that there is this sense of ingratitude, that people give thanks to other things before they give thanks to God. Or my favorite is that they will put other things ahead of God, and then God becomes like a security blanket. When I need God, I run after God. When things are too bad for me to handle, I go screaming for God. When my life is out of control, I go yearning for God. When folks are coming to do me harm, or I don't have enough money, then God becomes my resource. When God says, I am not a cash ATM. I am not the bank of heaven. If you need me, you don't call me like that. You don't pimp me in glory. But understand that God is there as a continuum, and so therefore God's anger becomes enraged when not only do we give things credit that belong to God, but when we treat God as though he's the cosmic big daddy in the sky. I only run to him when I need something, and then when my need has been met, now I treat him as though he's an orphan stepchild. I don't even have a conversation with him because he's not important until I'm in trouble. Then we learned, as we have gone to this final phase, that there is an anger that comes up between us in personality conflicts, and we have been dealing with that for the past several weeks. That this anger, when I see somebody who's not like me, and I don't understand why they just can't do what I want them to do, say what I want them to say, treat me like I want them to treat me. When I see that they've got issues with them, and a lot of times what we don't understand is that hurting people hurt people. And so they say crazy stuff out of their mouths because they're hurting, not realizing that the people that they are hurting, they're not really hurting them. They're doing further injury to themselves because all of this hurt and unresolved pain that they have inside keeps vomiting out of them. And so we learned how to deal with situations like that. And our last scripture very clearly that we'll go over today is that was clear, is that we don't repay evil for evil, but that we deal with evil by doing good. Now, let us be clear that first of all, some of us will not be able to handle this because we're so used to doing stuff and getting folk back. The other side of this is that some of us will not be able to handle this because we're just not listening. we're in a frame of mind where this word is not going to be needed until it actually creeps on us. And I believe that God preemptively helps us. So again, in the book of Romans and chapter 12, book of Romans and chapter 12, beginning at verse 17, the book of Romans and chapter 12, beginning at verse 17. Concluding in the 21st verse, and as much as you are able, stand with me. In the book of Romans in chapter 12, beginning at verse 17, concluding in that 21st verse. Look at it as it says this: recompense to no man evil for evil, provide things honest in the sight of all men. If it be possible, as much as lieth in you, live peaceably with all men. Let me read that again. If it be possible, as much as lieth within you, live peaceably with all men. Dearly beloved, avenge not yourselves, but rather give place unto wrath. For it is written, vengeance is mine, I will repay, saith the Lord. Therefore, if thine enemy hunger, feed him. If he thirst, give him drink. For in so doing thou shalt heap coals of fire on his head. But be not overcome with evil, but overcome evil with good. You may be seated. Paul writes these words here again in the book of Romans, Romans being the last letter that he would write as he sins, was on his way to Spain, but never made it. He helps this community deal with this issue of what do we do in this dichotomy, where the Jews in the community are still forcing the Jewish practices that they believe in up against these new Christians. And then how do we deal with this Roman Empire, this government that seems to be very much unjust as it concerns the Christian church, that persecutes the Christian church? Then how do we deal with ourselves? How do we get along in community? How do we deal with folks who have different attitudes and they come with all this baggage, and some of us are rich and some of us are poor and some of us are slaves and some of us are free and some of us are Roman citizens and we are children of privilege and some of us are not. How do we deal with these people, these new people who are coming to the church, these prostitutes who are now coming out of the Roman system of goddess worship and now they're coming into the church? How do we deal with them, these temple eunuchs who once served in Ashtoreth's temple? And how do we deal with all these folks who are now making their way into the house of God? These people who have participated in Roman orgies in the Colosseum, and now they're turning back their lifestyles because everybody was falling into the church by this time. Everybody was making their way into the church, and the church was full of conflict, full of headache, full of challenges. We think that we have issues, but people telling, one group wants to tell another group of people how to dress in church or how to act or how to present themselves. That's the easy stuff. One group telling another group how they should conduct themselves in worship, how they need to do this. That's the easy stuff. This was the hard stuff. This was the stuff that really made one have to think, because you actually had to not divorce your spirit from your mind. You actually had to think about the actions you were committing. You actually had to be centered in worship. And you had to keep your mind focused that worship extended beyond the church. Now, if it's not Jesus, turn it off. But you had to be cognizant. Yes, where you show out, I'll show up. You had to be cognizant that the church of God was not just about four walls. That you couldn't shout and holler and run and love the Lord in here and then go out there and act a nut. That people who knew you in here also knew you out there, but that wasn't the issue. It was the people who knew you out there that weren't coming in here. and wanted to find out if this Jesus that you really say you believe in, if this church that you keep going to, if all of these prayers that you keep praying, if they're going to be any different than any of the other Roman, Greek, Egyptian gods that people were praying to in the day. Is Jesus really going to make a difference in your life, or are you going to keep tripping like you've been doing? Is the Lord really going to make a difference in your life, or are you going to keep acting the same way you've been acting? Because if you keep acting the same way you've been acting, there is no use in me coming to church, because if you have not changed, I might as well keep on worshiping Ashtra. I might as well keep worshiping, going and looking to Mount Olympus. I might keep on looking at the Egyptian mystery cults. Because if the gospel is not going to make a difference in your life, there is no use in me worshiping Jesus, because I got 1,000 other choices of gods to worship. Well, the pastor, we don't worship God. Sure we do. We worship a whole lot of gods. We worship the God of football. It's football season is coming up. We worship the God of work because we like to escape. We worship the God of fashion because some of us care more about what we have on our backs than what's in our head. We worship the God of intellectualism because some of us think that we can outsmart God, and so no matter how much book smart we have, we think that we can just think through the problem, that the problem will automatically change. We worship the God of money because we think that if we have enough money, we can get rid of these problems, we can get rid of these issues. We worship the God of bodies because some of us get so hooked up in how a person looks, we can't even think about what's going on in their mind and their spirit, and therefore we end up in all kinds of relationships that tear us down. And all of this produces this furious anger because we bring all of this stuff right into the church. And we become angry with God and one another because we're mad because you keep calling me out, and I'm mad at God because God won't handle my issues. And God is not obliged to handle any issue that you keep creating for yourself that you will not change. He's not obliged to change your circumstances when you won't change yourself. And so therefore, because you keep recreating the same problem, not realizing that the problem is internal to your person. You are the problem that you need to fix. Because you will not fix you. God is not obliged to change anything around you until you realize it's me. Everybody can't be wrong. It's me. All the evaluations can't be wrong. It's me. Everybody who's saying the same thing to me cannot be wrong. It's me. And guess what? In the middle of the night, when I'm tossing and turning and there's nobody there but myself, when I'm listening to sad music and crying sad tears, when I'm longing for somebody to come and be with me that I really shouldn't be with, what I need to figure out is, what is this person bringing to this life? Maybe it is that this person is bringing something to my life that allows me to distract myself from the real problem, which is the way I think, the way I feel, and my emotions. Perhaps the reason why I need somebody so badly is because I can't deal with all the stuff that I got going on inside. And therefore I lash out. I become angry, I cry, I cuss, I want to beat something because I can't deal with me. Well, how do I know that this was the problem? Because of the advice that he was given. Verse number 9, let love be without dissemination. Abhor that which is evil. Cleave to that which is good. In other words, all of us have some problems that we are bringing before God and the body, but yet if I get so caught up on the fact that you acting crazy, I cannot see the real hurt that's going on in your life. But if you will not admit the hurt that you have, I cannot help you. If you will not stand before God and say, God, I am hurting, I am in pain, there's some things going on with me that I cannot handle, that I really need you to address. If you will not be honest with God and yourself, how do you expect the church of God to be able to help you? That's why they says here, abhor that which is evil. What is evil? It is when I put anything before God. 1 Corinthians makes it very clear, anything that we put before God becomes sin. Nothing comes before the Almighty. And so he says, cleave to that which is good. Now notice this, be kindly affectioned one to another with brotherly love. What does kindly affection mean? Sometimes I just got to put up with you. Sometimes I got to realize you are not in a hut, you are high off of your own stuff, and therefore I might just have to stand back and bear you. I might have to deal with your crap. Because some of us are so filled up with our own spiritual bow, we have not taken the spiritual enema that we need to clean ourselves out.
Wow. It's true, sir.
And so I'm trying to buy it out. I'm trying to cuss it out. I'm trying to drink it out. And God says here, listen, be kindly affectionate one to another with brotherly love. What does that mean? Sometimes you do have to look at someone and say, listen, I've been where you are. You are not going to be able to get this out until you stand in front of the mirror and have a heart-to-heart talk with yourself. Until you ask the question, what is really wrong with me? And then you've got to be willing enough in the church of God when someone is in need of that kind of help to walk beside them 2 by 2. If you notice what Jesus did, Jesus never sent his disciples out alone. He always sent them out 2 by 2. Why? Because he realized that when you're alone, it's easy to let all the problems build up. And so when he talks about brotherly affection or kindly affection and brotherly love, what he's saying here is, listen, take care of one another and do it with the spirit that says that we are tied together. And sometimes, and when we're tied together, that means I gotta call you out on your stuff. I gotta call you out. I gotta say, your stuff does stink, but I still love you. I gotta say, hey, there's some changes to be made, but I still love you. Why? How do we know that that's what he looks? Look at that next piece of verse 10. Honor, preferring one another. So now I'm loving you with affection. I'm concerned about you. And I put your need that I am seeing ahead of my own. This is how you know when someone does not love you. When it's all about me and not about you, that's not love. That's usury. Right. When it's all about my needs, my wants, what I feel, how I need, what I want you to do. Why can't you do this? This is not love. It's called usury. I gotta get over it. Well, Pastor, I'm just saying that I got needs. Yeah, sit your needs down and consider that the person that you are talking to has needs too. And perhaps the reason why it ain't working in your friendship, it's not working in your marriage, it's not working in your school life. Maybe the reason why you really don't have friends is because people realize how selfish you really are and they don't like you. And sometimes you have to realize when you are not a likable person. Notice nowhere in here does the Bible call for likership. We get that confused. No, the Bible says you gotta like me. The Bible says I have to love you. I may not be able to stand you. Amen. But I have to love you. Loving you and liking you are two different things. Some people are not likable. They won't deal with their own stuff. It's never their fault. They don't have the issue. Somebody else does. Somebody else is always doing them wrong. It's a system. It's a person. It's a thing. It's you. It's their mama. It's their daddy. It's the sky. It's not blue. I woke up on the wrong side of the bed. Here he is saying very clearly, prefer, honor. How do I honor you? I honor you when I realize that even though I got stuff going on, I can't let my stuff affect you, because if something's going on with you, it might just help me to help you. The greatest times of blessing in my life has been when I was able to put my own stuff aside and walk beside someone else when they were having trouble. Why? What did it teach me? It taught me that what I was going through really wasn't that bad. What I was enduring really wasn't that bad. I had a headache, but they had cancer. I was trying to pay a bill, but they had no place to go. I was trying to figure out how to bless my children, but they wanted some children. So when I learned by preferring one another, when I learned by honoring, when I learned how to get over me, I can be a blessing to somebody else. And oh, by the way, as I bless others, God blesses me. Look at what he says here. This is how I know he's helping. Look, not slothful in business, fervent in spirit, and serving the Lord. In other words, procrastination ain't godly. It's not godly. Well, I'll participate on this committee when I have time. I'll do this when I can fit it in. Or you know, I know I've got to do these things, but I'm just going to wait until, I love this one. I'm going to wait until everything's perfect. When have you ever discovered a perfect time in your life? I don't know about you. I I've never had a perfect time to do anything. I've always had to strike an opportunity. Why? Because I put something else off. He's saying here, when we're slothful in business, that is not how we represent the Lord. And then this is the trick thing. And notice, fervent in spirit, serving the Lord. So that my service in my business equips to being servants of the Lord. Why? Because the more I serve God, the more I do with expediency, the more I obey his voice as he speaks it, the more he's able to do for me, and therefore he's able to allow me to be a visible blessing before others. I've always been curious on how people can say that they are anointed, but yet there's no physical difference. No difference. And I'm very hard on students because I'm trying to think of how do you love the Lord and you flunk him? How do you say you love Jesus and the Lord is in you and you can't even make it through school? I'm very curious on folks who can't pass the performance evaluations. You say you love Jesus and you're anointed, but yet they keep firing you. Might it be that you really don't love Jesus because Jesus will give you insight on what you need to do to stay on that job? Could it be that you really aren't serving the Lord because the Lord will call you out and tell you instead of being on the phone, you actually need to study, or instead of being on the net, you might want to turn the net off and net yourself back over to that book? Could it be that it might just be the time for you to realize that if you're going to be a blessing to the Lord, it might include not relying on the Lord to transfer stuff by osmosis, but by the work of your hand. What is the first anointing? The first anointing is hard work. What did he tell Adam? Be fruitful and multiply and till the earth.
That's what he said.
Not wait on me to open up the doors of heaven. I've given it to you, now work it.
Yes, yes.
It'll work if you work it. Not depend on somebody else. You got to work your own stuff. Isn't it interesting? You got to work your own issues and you got to work your own stuff. I am not responsible. You are not responsible for someone else. But we are responsible by how we walk with one another and, hold each other accountable in love. Watch this. Rejoicing in hope, patient in tribulation, continuing instant prayer. Notice what it says. I'm rejoicing in hope. Yeah, I have a good time celebrating the fact that I got hope. Some stuff is going to happen. But when it don't happen and I'm in tribulation, I'm patient. I ain't cussing. I'm not fussing. I'm not blaming. I'm not giving up. I'm not throwing in the towel. I'm not moving. I'm not shifting. I'm patient. I'm waiting on this storm to pass. The reason why most of us have not found the radical success that we are looking for because we don't know how to deal with hard times.
Say it.
Hard times come. I can tell you about hard times as a student. I know what it is to go to bed hungry and wake up the same way. But I also know what it is to see God send a $5,000 check that changes everything.
They'll say that.
But you can't make it through this little bit of trouble. How do you expect to deal with real trouble? And people are very strange to me. If you know any millionaire, and I know a couple, if you know any CEO, your little small problem is nothing compared to having to deal with a trade deficit and a declining dollar against a yen or a euro. And factory workers that might be going on strike in this area, which will affect production in this area. And oh, by the way, a stock bid in this area and a board or a hostile takeover in this area and an IPO that you've been trying to deal with in this area. Or not to mention that little Johnny is now addicted again and can't get this stuff straight. And Margaret is about to divorce you. And so you deal with all this stuff, but yet you can't handle the $50,000 a year that you make. But you want to come up to millionaire status. You can't balance $100 that you keep burning up and wondering when I can get some more. But yet you want to rise. Wasn't Biggie right? More money, more problems. And I've seen it. I know exactly where we are. We have crossed another line of demarcation in our tax status. More money, more issues. But you can't handle this right now. But you begging, God, give me some more. You can't handle the tribulation you're going through. Distributing to the necessity of the saints, giving hospitality. In other words, everybody eats. I love this. I love that saying out of the hip hop world. Everybody eats. Everybody eats. It's not about me. Everybody eats. Everybody makes some bread. Well, Pastor, what are you trying to get to? I'm trying to get to verse 14 because see, this is where we keep missing it, and this is why he gets us to verse 17. Bless them which persecute you, bless and curse not. Some stuff you're gonna have to deal with, but you can't go cussing everybody out that's mean to you, especially when you realize how many people that you've already been mean to. The reason why I stopped tripping, now this is me, the reason why I stopped tripping is because I realized that when people are having a bad day, they do stuff they otherwise would not do, but I also realized how many bad days I've had, and people have put up with it. And so he says here, bless them and don't cuss them out. Rejoice with them that rejoice. In other words, if somebody gets something new, you be happy. Don't put on the good face. Right. Don't drink from the perpetual fountain of haterade. That's why God can't bless you. You can't celebrate with nobody else. Right. Weep with them who weep. They're going through a hard time, just sit with them. Be of the same mind toward one another. In other words, be stable. Be stable. Be stable. Don't be unstable. And realize when you have unstable people around you. Watch this. Mind not high things, but condescend to men of low estate. In other words, be even. Be even. Don't. Mama used to say, don't put on airs. Balance. Thank you. Don't show out, trying to show how much you know or how much you got. Be able to hang out with everybody. One of my favorite preachers, H. Beecher Hicks, used to talk about how he would go and sit out on the front steps of the Metropolitan Missionary Baptist Church when it was in D.C., and he'd go hang out with the bums and the winos because they actually knew what was going on in the neighborhood, so he'd just come sit with them. And he'd tell them what was happening. Sometimes we've got to realize that you need to have some friends in some high and some low places. But here's the other thing. Be not wise in your own conceits. Well, Pastor, how is this getting angry? Here it is. When somebody shows you up, that's when you get upset. I know it all. No, you don't. Nobody knows it all. And so he then says, because of this, when somebody gets the gotcha, or you feel like you get got, or you just got, don't recompense to any man evil for evil. Why do you get in this perpetual doubt? There's something that I want to say, but I need to back it up. There's a match. Oh, yeah, that's better. Why do you get in a back and forth? Why do you get in a back and forth? You going back and forth for what? Back and forth for what? And then, why are you trying to one-up somebody that just did you dirty? So they posted on something on Facebook, Vine, Twitter, Pine Trust, Instagram, and so now you feel like you got to do the same thing. And you doing something stupid, you arguing over social media, and both of you look crazy. Abraham Lincoln was right. Never argue with a fool. Passerbyers will not be able to know who from who. But you're doing all this arguing and not realizing that all of these things are forever. I can pull posts from 2005 that are still on the World Wide Web and know exactly what you said. So don't look crazy. Provide things honest in the sight of all men. Sometimes, yes, you've got to be honest. The anger issue is not about you, or it's not about them. If it is possible, see, this is the piece that I love. As much as lieth within you, live peaceably with all men. Now, here's the thing. If it's possible. If it's possible. Sometimes you have to do a Jacob and a Laban. May the Lord watch between me and thee. While we're yet absent one from another. In other words, Lord, keep us apart, because if I see you again, I might kill you. Some relationships, though there is forgiveness, are not meant to be reconciled. Amen. Why? Because of that piece there. As much as lieth within you. Yes, there is forgiveness, but some stuff you just cannot forget. The Bible says very clearly, it is the Lord who throws stuff into the sea of forgetfulness, not us. The Bible never admonishes any of us to forgive and forget. Neither does it make forgiveness an instantaneous process. So that when someone is bereft, when you have done something against somebody, when you say, I'm sorry, I taught my children very clearly, I'm sorry is not the end of the story. Right. I'm sorry don't fix everything. Some folks are too nasty to deal with it, so you got to put yourself way away from them. Why? Because they will keep dragging you down. Because I'm sorry may not mean that they're apologetic. It may mean I'm sorry I got caught. Or I'm sorry you took it the wrong way. Or I'm sorry I couldn't get this over on you. The way you know that someone is really apologetic for their actions is they work diligently to change. They change what they say. They change what they do. They admit when they are wrong. You can see the spectrum of growth. Therefore, it makes not just the process of forgiveness easier, it makes the process of reconciliation easier. Stop thinking that everybody you forgive, you got to get back with. Some relationships have disbanded by the will of God. If you have ever sat with me any number of times, I don't bless all marriages because I don't believe that all marriages are blessed by God. Amen. Here's the criteria. What God has joined together, not what you joined. What God has joined together, not what people arranged. What God has joined together, not the mess that you brought yourself into. So if the Lord has done it, whatever the Lord does, he sustains. Whatever he doesn't do, he tears apart. It's very simple. And so you are here trying to fix stuff that wasn't made to be fixed, and you wonder why your head hurt. Inasmuch as it lieth within you. Now here's the criteria. You have to live peaceably with all men. And sometimes the peace means you need to be on one coast and I need to be on the other. Sometimes the peace means your phone don't need to ring in my direction. You don't need to call me, talk to me, be with me, or be in my presence. It might be cool that I see you every month, and that's it. But it does not mean that I continue to frustrate myself by putting you in my presence when your nutcase has not changed. It does not mean that I can continue to put up with people or things that diminish my person when they have not changed. God has not called us to be punching bags. He says, inasmuch as it is possible, live at peace with all people. When people want to abuse you, you walk away. You do not stay. God does not call for anybody to be abused, misused, mistrusted, battered, or even talked down to. We are to bring out the best of one another. And that's why he said, if it's possible, live in peace, but if it's not, hit the road and don't look back. Notice that when Lot's wife looked back, she turned into a pillar of salt. What do we call people who have unresolved issues? We call them salty. Yeah, right. And the reason why some of us are so salty is because you keep looking back at something you were meant to walk away from forever. My mama used to not let us play with folks very clearly. She would say, you can't play with this person. You can't talk to this person. You can't be around this person. And for about 50 seconds, it would make me mad. Until I started thinking about those individuals I couldn't talk to, play with, or be around. And I realized they were always in trouble. And I had enough sense, and my mother and I, you'll meet her in November, we've had a very interesting relationship. I've not liked her, but I've always respected her. Because I've never known a time when she hasn't been right. I've never known a time when she has not done something that was credible, where she has not thought the process through. And so my mother, in many areas of my life, has instantaneous trust. Because she's also learned how to give me instantaneous space. Let me say that again. She has instantaneous trust because she knows at the age that I am now, how to give me instantaneous space. And so when she would tell me about these individuals, when I think about it, I have to say she was right. And here's the point. I had another friend of mine who lived right next door to me, grew up the same way. We are 3 months apart, who always decided to hang out with these particular individuals. And inevitably would always get in trouble with somebody, to the point that I knew the LAPD officers that were going to pick them up. Sometimes you have to walk away. Relationship. They're a family I don't talk to. We just can't live in peace. No love lost. We have a saying and a motto in my family. If you want to be family, we family. If you don't want to be family, we not. We don't force family. Why? Because family is bigger than blood. I have more family in this room than I have by blood relations. Why? Because I have decided to connect. Not because of what we share in DNA, because of what we share in spiritual acumen. Here's the point. Dearly beloved, avenge not yourselves, but rather give place unto wrath, for it is written, vengeance is mine. Well, what does that mean? You stop trying to do what the Lord's job is. You stop trying to handle what the Lord said he would take care of. I have watched God do to folk more than I could ever do, and I'm good at it. I am trained at this. But I have watched God take lives apart. I have watched God bring sickness. I have watched God, like locusts, tear through folk money and leave them devastated. I have watched God do it. And so, if the Lord is going to do that, I don't need to cuss. I don't need to fuss. I don't need to fight. I don't even need to have a conversation. We've got somebody right now who is living far worse than they did before they ever knew me, because they were bad to me. And you've got to be able to watch God do it and not feel the need to help the Lord out. Like on Good Times, when Florida Evans says to James Evans, no, James, you can't do that, because the Lord said, vengeance is mine. And then James says, I just want to do the Lord's will. No, that job is not yours. It belongs to the Lord. Because he says, I will repay. Now, so how do you deal, this is the point, how do you deal with difficult people in your life that you have now still chosen to be around? Here's the point. If they are hungry, feed them. If they are thirsty, give them something to drink. Why? Because in doing so, you shall heap coals of fire on their head. Well, Pastor, what if they're not around me? So what if they call me? Treat them with respect, but know when to cut the conversation off. What if they come into my space? Treat them as though they are beloved, but know how to have intimate distance. Some conversations are not for everybody. Know how to give some of yourself, but not all of yourself. Well, Pastor, what if they need me to do something? Do it for them. Fulfill the need. Do it with love and with care and with a smile on your face. Why? Because right there, in doing so, you shall heap coals of fire on your head. You've got to learn how to be professional, but not nasty.
Amen.
It's a developmental tool for those of us who intend on moving into professional spaces, into business, into medicine, into law. For those of us who are in those spaces right now, you've got to learn how to be professional without nasty, so that nobody knows who likes who. And part of the problem is you keep wanting people to like you and wanting to be liked by people who were never meant to be with you. If they don't go home with you, what difference do they make?
Say that.
Learn how to be professional. That's all he's saying right there. Be a professional Christian. Whoa, isn't that a concept? Not a saint. Woo! But a professional Christian. A professional Christian. Oh, what is the first part of professional? Profess. Be what you profess to be. A professional Christian. Learn how to master that. Everything else flows out of that. Academically, I'm at a better academic level than I have ever been in a doctoral program. I'm at a 3.8. That means all A's, 1 B. Therefore, I can talk about what I know, because I wasn't all that way. I closed my undergraduate career at a 2.9. That's because I mastered 2 words, road trip. I can tell you about all parts of the United States and some places that I am banned from going. But again, I had to learn how to be a professional Christian. I had to learn how to decipher who was to be around me. I had to learn to talk to. My wife can tell you, there's some family I don't talk to. They talk to her. They don't talk to me. They talk to her. I put them on the phone with her. Oh, it's so wonderful. Yes. Oh, yeah, love. Oh, love you so much. Oh, here's Bridget. I got to take care of something. There's some family that she don't talk to. They talk to me. Oh, yeah, here's Byrd. Okay, yeah. Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. There's some folks we get 5 minutes. Oh, it's so wonderful to see you again. You are so precious. Oh, you are wonderful. Listen, I got to go. I promised somebody I would do this, and I'm on the way. Learn how to be a professional Christian. Even when folk do you dirty. That's why he says don't be overcome with evil. Because folk, it's going to happen. It's going to happen. You're going to be in school. Somebody's going to look at you. They're not going to like you. Okay, you don't go not liking them. You be like, okay, hey, listen, you cool. Why? Because you don't matter. Out of the basketball wives of Miami came a wonderful term that I love so much. You are not relevant. We would say non-factor. And so, if people are non-factor, why do them evil? Doesn't that take too much energy? Have you ever thought about how much energy it really takes to do somebody dirty? Because if you're like me, you lay a plan. You lay about a 3-year plan. You lay a 3-year plan. Why a 3-year plan? Because it takes about a year for them to forget what they did. It takes about a year. They don't remember. And then in the 2nd year, you're putting people and things in place. So by the 3rd year, before they realize what happened, now all of a sudden things are collapsing. And about the end of the 3rd year, you come in with a smile and you help them to realize you did this. It used to be a 3-month process, but I changed it to a 3-year process. But again, understand, it just takes too much energy. All that energy you spend in scheming and thinking about what they're saying and thinking about how they're about to do you. And you having whole conversations in your mind. You know that's schizophrenic, right?
Yes.
You're saying what you're going to say, and then you're saying what they're going to say, and then you're saying what you're going to say in response to what they just said, and then you have a whole conversation in your mind. You are answering yourself. That's very disturbing. And then you go to bed tired, but you ain't done nothing because you've been inside of your head. You're thinking about what people are saying about you. Here's what I've learned. Nobody talking about you. Ain't nobody thinking about you. I know it's a burst to your bubble, but really nobody's thinking about you. When your phone does not ring and you don't get a tweet and you don't get a text, that should show you wasn't nobody thinking about you. Just live there. Live there for a moment. When they're not calling to check on you, even though they know you've had a bad day, just live there. They ain't thinking about you. And sometimes that's good, because some folk you don't want to think about you. I understand that the reason why most of us are so angry is because we keep reading our own press. That's why I'm angry. I keep reading my own press. They told me I was the greatest. They told me I was the cutest. They told me I ran the fastest. They told me that I was the smartest. They told me this and that and the other. And the truth of the matter is they lied. Like we do with children who stand up on Children's Sunday to sing, and we know that child can't hold a note. We lie. Like when we eat somebody's cooking that came to church and we know it's the nastiest thing on earth, and we say we never tasted anything else like this, we lie. And so you keep believing things that the devil. Listen, if you are a C+ student and they told you you're the smartest thing on earth, they lied. If your IQ is not 170 and you acting like you are barely at an 80, they lied. If you know that when you look in the mirror, you see some craters on your love talking, love make everybody look good. We used to call it beer goggles. They lied. So stop reading your own press. Because it's going to mess you up. It's been messing you up. But so what do I do, Pastor? What do? I live in reality. Live in the reality. What's the reality? The reality is back to verse number 9. Let love be without dissimulation. Learn how to love yourself so that you can love somebody else. Because if you don't love you, it's not going to work anywhere else. You will always choose relationships, whether they be professional or personal, that will diminish who you are because you have no concepts. You will always be angry because you are expecting someone to put into you what God says should have already been in you. And so the reason why he brings us here, and this is wonderful because my wife, I should share with my wife as we transition, the reason why he brings us here is because we'll be transitioning on how to deal with wounded emotions. Healing for wounded emotions, realizing that, yeah, we're wounded. And a lot of our anger comes from the fact that we don't want to really admit how badly battered we really are. Well, that's all I got. I'm gone over time. Actually, yes, I already have. Let's pray. Father, again, we thank you, we bless you, we honor you. Help us to take a deep breath and exhale. Help us to stop. Just stop. Stop putting on other people what you keep putting on us. Stop being so furious with others because we are really angry at ourselves. Help us to stop expecting what other people or what we keep wanting others to do that is only up to you. Lord, you promised that you would give us all a ruach breath, which is the breath of life. But we've been so busy breathing in the smog of our existence and choking on our own anger that we can't hear from you. So now, God, help us. Help us to have a forgiving heart. Help us, first of all, Lord, to forgive ourselves, even as you have forgiven us, because that's the hardest piece right there. And then help us to be more forgiving of others. Help us to forgive them for what they weren't able to do. Help us to forgive them for what they, Lord, were not meant to do. Help us to forgive them for unrealistic expectations that we placed on them. And then, Lord, help us to forgive those who have deeply wounded us, so that our anger will not turn to bitterness and our ears will not be closed to hear you. Now, God, we're here. You've divinely designed it that we should be here. So help us. If there's someone here who's in need of salvation, really in need of professing your Son as Savior, Lord, help us. If there's someone here who's so hurt and so damaged, God, crack open that wall. Let the healing begin. Let the tears begin to flow. Help us. And then, Lord, if there's someone here who just needs to feel your reassuring touch, to know they're not alone, help us. For these things we ask and pray. If you're here today,